There's a bridge on the Ohio River that most Americans have never heard of, and it's quietly holding the entire U.S. economy together. Every auto part heading from Detroit to the South, every food shipment moving between the Midwest and Florida, every package in your recent online order, there's a good chance it crossed this one aging structure. We're talking about $2 billion worth of goods every single day. The Brent Spence Bridge was built in 1963 for a completely different America. Today, engineers are racing to fix it by building an entirely new bridge right next to it while the traffic never stops moving underneath. Look, we have to understand that this is not just a Cincinnati traffic problem. It's actually a massive weak spot in the entire American economy. If you look at a map, this bridge sits exactly where two of the country's biggest interstates collide, the I-71 and I-75. Engineers call this the manufacturing spine of the United States because it's the main pipe connecting the industrial Midwest to the booming Southeast. When you force double the amount of traffic into a space that wasn't designed for it, that logistics heart starts to skip a beat. This isn't just about people being 10 minutes late for dinner. It's a national choke point. Think about it. When Brent Spence stalls, it triggers a ripple effect that hits every grocery store shelf and factory floor from Michigan all the way down to Florida. Fuel gets wasted, shipping costs skyrocket, and that 2-day delivery suddenly becomes 4. Essentially, if this one bridge stops working, the American economy physically slows down. When the Brent Spence Bridge first opened back in 1963, it was top of the line for its time. But you have to remember that it was built for a completely different version of America. It was originally designed to carry 80,000 cars a day across 3 nice wide lanes. But as the Midwest transformed into a global logistics powerhouse, that old design just couldn't keep up. To keep the traffic moving, engineers made a desperate move. They erased the emergency shoulders and squeezed in a 4th lane just to buy some space. But that fix created the structural nightmare we're living in today. Because we traded shoulders for lanes, we're left with these narrow, suffocating paths that leave zero margin for error. Think about it. If you get a flat tire or your engine stalls, there's nowhere to pull over. You're stuck in the middle of a lane, and a simple problem can paralyze a multi-state supply chain. On top of that, you have merging chaos. Because the exits are so short and the lanes are so tight, you have massive semi-trucks and local commuters fighting for the same exits at 60 mph. It's easily one of the most accident-prone stretches of road in the country. For decades, we've just been applying Band-Aids to a structural wound. But the reality is a 60-year-old design simply wasn't built to carry the weight of a modern superpower. This is where the Brent Spence Bridge Corridor project comes in. But you have to understand, this isn't just a simple bridge repair. This is a massive $3.6 billion reconstruction of a 7.8-mile stretch of interstate. They're redesigning how the traffic flows here. The engineers realized that adding more lanes to the same old bottleneck wouldn't solve anything. Instead, they decided to rethink the entire system. One bridge for the people just crossing town, another for the freight trucks and long-distance drivers pushing through from Michigan to Florida. 2 bridges, 2 jobs, 0 overlap. The star of this plan is the new companion bridge, which will be built right next to the current one. They've gone with a cable stay design. It includes sleek Har-like cables, which not only look good but also allows for a massive span that keeps the Ohio River clear for boats. This new bridge is going to be the workhorse for the long distance ants through traffic on I-71 and I-75. By giving those massive freight trucks their own dedicated path, the pressure on the old system starts to disappear. But building the bridge is actually only half the battle. The real headache begins the moment all that traffic hits the land. Now, you might be wondering what actually happens to the original Brent Spence. A lot of people assume it's getting torn down, but it's not. It's getting a full structural rehabilitation and a new identity. The 4 cramped lanes that have caused so much chaos are being stripped back to 3. And for the first time since 1985, the emergency shoulders are coming back. That means if your car breaks down, there's finally somewhere to go. The old bridge isn't being retired. It's being reset to what it was always supposed to be, a safe, manageable crossing for the people who actually live and work in this corridor. But here's the thing. Impressive as a new bridge is, it's only half the story. The real mega build is happening on both sides of the river. From Dixie Highway in Kentucky all the way to the Western Hills Viaduct in Ohio, this entire 7.8-meter stretch is being completely rewritten. We're talking about a total redesign of interchanges, ramps, and lane layouts to finally bring them up to modern safety standards. The secret weapon making all of this work on the ground is something called collector-distributor lanes. Think of them as a parallel road running alongside the main highway, a dedicated path that lets local drivers enter and exit the corridor without ever crossing in front of a 40-ton freight truck doing 65 mph. It's what finally eliminates those terrifying last-second merges that have caused crashes on this stretch for decades. Without them, the two-bridge system couldn't function. With them, the entire 7.8-mile corridor operates as one coherent machine. Of course, a plan this big isn't cheap, and that's exactly why it was stuck in political mud for decades. The biggest drama was always about the money, specifically tolls. For years, nobody could agree on whether to charge drivers to cross, and that stalemate killed every proposal that came across the desk. But then, the bipartisan infrastructure law happened. This federal investment unlocked a massive $1.6 billion and finally broke the deadlock. Ohio and Kentucky agreed to split the rest of the bill, and in a huge win for the locals, they officially took tolls off the table. This breakthrough created a new model for how major states can actually work together to get big things done. But now comes the hardest part. They have to rebuild this highway artery while the traffic is still pumping through it like blood. Working in a tight urban space directly over the Ohio River with 160,000 cars zipping by every day is the ultimate engineering test. To pull it off, they've developed an incredibly complex sequence of temporary lanes and surgical demolitions so that the traffic never has to stop. It is quite literally like trying to swap out a car's engine while it's still doing 70 mph down the highway. When the dust finally settles, the landscape of the region is going to look and feel totally different. We're talking about predictable travel times, a massive drop in the risk of crashes, and a system where freight trucks actually get where they're going on time. But this project is about more than just concrete and steel. It's about a new connection between cities that will boost the local economy and improve the quality of life for everyone who lives there. The Brent Spence Bridge corridor is the perfect example of what happens when we stop patching up the past and start building for the future. It's a reminder that the biggest failure in infrastructure isn't always a collapse. Sometimes it's just a bottleneck that stops an entire country in its tracks. So what do you think? Is this $3.6 billion fix the right move? Or is there another choke point out there that needs our attention more? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this mega project breakdown, and don't forget to subscribe to Mega Builds for more. Thank you for watching.